Time I'd like to yield 5 minutes to my colleague from California, a member of the Intelligence Committee, Mr. Issa.
Gentleman from California is recognized for 5 minutes.
I thank the gentleman. Speaker asks unanimous request to revise and extend.
Objection.
Mr. Speaker, I was here on the floor yesterday and thought I'd only speak once. And as I heard the debate of thoughtful members on both sides of this issue, I was reminded of something I said yesterday that needed to be said again. Although the people you're hearing from mean well on both sides, less than a third of the members speaking on this House floor served in the U.S. military, although everyone was eligible. And less than a third have traveled to Iraq, although everyone was eligible. Perhaps we'll give the freshmen a pass. This is in fact a debate by people who are not military experts. I count myself among those who, although I served in the military and have been to Iraq, I am not a military expert. And I don't pretend to play one on television and before the American people. And yet that's what we're doing here for 4 solid days. We're in fact pretending to be military experts. Well, Mr. Speaker, this morning I had a military expert in my office, Staff Sergeant Bain. He's only a staff sergeant. How is he an expert? He's just finishing 3 years in Walter Reed, 3 years of recovering from terrible wounds. He came in doing a very good job with his artificial leg. He came in and shook my hand even though he cannot feel with that hand. And all I could do was thank him for his service and hand him a coin and wish him well in his civilian life. But he took the time to tell me that he disagreed with the president sending 20,000 troops to Iraq. He said, "I'm sorry, I can't be there for that." He said they ought to send 100,000. What we did there, we need to finish. Staff Sergeant Bain got it right. The United States military and its experts believe we need to get this finished and get it right. Now, the staff sergeant's 3 years out of Iraq, so I'll forgive him for not being sure about whether it should be 20,000, as our military leaders, including General Petraeus, have asked for, or whether it should be 20,000 more if necessary, or 100,000. But it's important that Staff Sergeant Bain be heard. Because in fact, what you have here, a bunch of people, most of whom didn't serve in the military, most of whom haven't bothered to go to the combat zone, and those of us who did, for the most part, had a relatively quick tour in and out, we have not experienced what our troops have experienced. And I know there is some disagreement among those who have been there. But I asked, Mr. Speaker, I asked the American people to ask a vet of this war, their own vet, their own neighborhood, and they're going to find out they want to win this peace just as they won the war. They toppled Saddam, and now they're being told to cut and run. That's what this is leading to. Mr. Speaker, we cannot do that, and we know it. And yet, for political expedience, this body is pretending to be military experts. Mr. Speaker, I will close simply by reminding this body of something we do know about. This is a body filled with people who understand history. Under fascism, we took on Japan, Germany, Italy, and their allies. And it took 4 years before we did it. Well, they grew, and 4 years to defeat them, and it took a decade or more to turn those countries into functional democracies. And yet, America stayed the course. And we had troops deployed there, and we have troops deployed there today, even though they're functional democracies. For more than 50 years, we fought the other ism, communism. China, the Soviet Union, and the rest of the Soviet bloc stood there threatening annihilation, but the American people put up with unspeakable amounts of money and significant loss of military lives, over 100,000 in 2 side battles of the Cold War. And we spent countless billions, sometimes as much as 50% of our GDP, of our government budget went to the military, and we did it. Now we're being asked to deal with radicalism. And I can't name a country of radicalism, and I don't say radical Islam or radical Islamic fascism. I simply say radicalism. because these radicals come from different sects of Islam, but they have one thing in common. They seek to conquer countries, to put an ism onto them that is not of their choosing and without freedom. Won't the American people stand here today with a Congress representing them and stand against this ism for at least as long as we stood against fascism and at least as long as we stood against communism? I yield back.